Was in on the big vote yesterday, and Ivanka Trump, suddenly a power player in D.C. Fox and Friends, first day of winter. We'll be right back.
It's the largest tax cut in the history of our country. It's always a lot of fun when you win. If you work hard and lose, that's not acceptable.
When the American people start to see more in their paychecks in February, I really do believe that it's going to sell itself.
14 people hurt after a driver plowed into a crowd of people overnight in Melbourne, Australia.
At this stage, we believe it is a deliberate act.
Lawyers are readying fresh subpoenas after Tuesday's 7-hour interrogation of Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe.
The clock is ticking for Congress to reach an agreement to avoid a government shutdown.
It's highly unlikely that there's a government shutdown.
I guess it's very simple. We are making America great again.
This is really Amazon's Super Bowl week. Steve, I got you the Gotham CRISPR tray advertised on the Fox News channel.
I've already got one.
Often. This is a great product. You already got one? Well, now you have two.
Favorite Christmas album has nothing to do with vocals.
What do you mean? What is it?
Mannheim
Steamroller?
Kenny G. I realized it was 2000 when he put out that DVD. Remember, because he had the whole retrospective on. And to me, when I heard it last night, I said to myself, it is my favorite.
It's beautiful.
My mom used to have the Johnny Mathis Christmas
These were real good.
album. He was fantastic, too. What's your favorite Christmas music, the album? Email us, friends@foxnews.com, and we'll play some in the breaks throughout the morning. There's Kenny G. Look at that.
Remember, he used to come on our show.
He did.
What happened?
Good question, Brian. Kenny G, if you're watching, please call 888. All right, meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. If you were watching yesterday, you know that after a little technical snafu, the House of Representatives went ahead and passed the same thing that they had passed the night before in the U.S. Senate, passing the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. It's a $1.5 trillion gift to America's corporations and the middle class. That's the way the President of the United States and Republicans describe it.
Right. What's going to be interesting is, and as the New York Times writes today, the president's betting. The president's betting if you give the American people their money back, if you give corporations, which are made up of people, a competitive tax rate that will grow at a rate that will not increase the deficit. In fact, will touch 4, and that's what Gary Cohn said yesterday. He believes he'll do that. So the country, the president's betting on the country.
Yeah, let's bring in Kellyanne Conway. She is counselor to the president, and she is at the White House this morning. I bet the champagne bottles were popping yesterday. I know the president doesn't drink, but all the people on the stairs you see there, the majority of them, they all do. Yeah. They had to get through all this, right?
It was a very historic day, a real turning point, I think, for the American people and the centerpiece of this president's full economic agenda. It also includes energy independence. It includes the regulation rollback that this president has done in a historic way. And it also includes a president who, since he was elected, has presided over a booming stock market, booming consumer confidence, small business formation. I think there are so many men and women in this country who are going to now start a small business, who are going to say, I like what I see, the regulations are fewer, the tax code is simpler, the tax cuts are more robust, including for those pass-through companies. I ran one for 22 years. It's a thrill to be able to go to work every day and convert a skill set or a hobby into a full-blown profit-making enterprise. And I bet all those entrepreneurs out there, those moms and pops, those moms and dads, who have been waiting for a president who's a leader to give them more of their hard-earned money, are going to go ahead and start more businesses. I have to take a point of personal privilege, folks, and congratulate you. I don't know if you're too humble to tell your viewers.
We have not mentioned this.
I have to do it. I'm sorry. Roll the tape, please. The 3 of you were ranked the #1 most influential media figures. #1 on the list. I mean, the guy with the combo lawnmower Zamboni behind us. I hope he made if it's a list of 100, I can't even think of 100 people influential in the media. I hope he made it. But congratulations to you. And I think influence and impact are important because we're just trying to get our message out here, and we appreciate the platform.
Well, that was from Mediaite. They named us #1 most influential. That's right. Kellyanne, let's talk about influential companies in the United States of America. Some of the biggest ones yesterday, after the tax cut was, that passed by the House, after it was passed by the Senate, after it was first passed by the House. Exactly. Suddenly, America's back in business. Look at all these businesses that have announced, they're giving their employees more money. They're going to invest more money into their corporations.
Bonus checks.
All sorts of stuff. What is the message for people who are working at some of those big companies, that their bosses are probably going to spread the wealth a little with them as well going forward?
It was the very first commitment of the tax break from these companies. They reinvested it right back into their employees immediately. And you saw the anticipation and the expectation of this tax cut was having a positive impact on so many business decisions from these employers. But now they're actually putting the money immediately in the pockets of their employees. And I took a look at that list, which was growing last night. And so many of those businesses are headquartered and or have a presence in the states of Democratic senators who could not muster a yes vote for this historic tax plan. And think about that. You go back home as the senator of that state where Boeing is, where Wells Fargo is, where Comcast is. And these folks are going to say, I thought you said you had to be against this because it was going to help the wealthy. I don't consider myself wealthy, those employees are going to say. And I'm grateful that this president and that Republican Congress passed it.
Are you saying that employees of Comcast, if they ever see Chuck Schumer walking around, say, hey, thanks for nothing, I got $1,000 from President Trump's and the Republicans' tax cut? Is that what you're saying?
But sure, that works. I'd also say that those Democrats and really their friends in the mainstream media who predicted that this would only be for the wealthy, that this would hurt the middle class little guy, that got upended hours after it passed. It's already not true. And I think once in a while, the people who are always in attack mode should say it was a great day for the home team. And the home team here is the American worker. Look how simple the code's going to be now. People spend too many hours and too much money complying with this code. And yesterday was a 3-for-1. ANWR, it's responsible and safe energy development in Alaska. You have the repealing of the Obamacare mandate, which was supposed to attract the young and healthy to the Obamacare exchanges. The only thing it did was cause insurers to flee from the Obamacare exchanges and have that part of the market start to collapse. 30 million Americans right now don't have health coverage post-Obamacare. This president is committed to doing that. And then, of course, the tax cuts, 3-for-1.
The New York Times says this: President Trump when he adds his signature to this tax bill, he'll also be making a huge bet that the Republican strategy of deep cuts for businesses and wealthy individuals will fuel extraordinary growth across the board, perhaps more than any other American political leader. Mr. Trump knows that is a long shot.
It's not, though, and here's why. We've already had 2 consecutive quarters of 3% plus GDP of growth. The previous president said 2% was about all we can settle for. That was the message from that administration, even though for decades prior to that administration, we did have 3% plus GDP. Some nonpartisan economists put it at 4% in the immediate future. So we're very hopeful that growth will continue, that job production and job security for many Americans is more at hand today post-tax cut. But we also see...
So you think you were mischaracterized? Do you think it was mischaracterized?
I do. And, well, of course, but this is what happens when you talk about and to America, not about Russia, for an entire year. This president is focused on the men and women of this country, especially those who feel like the system has always squeezed them out. There's never anything there for them. They have no access. There is no accountability from their office holders. And they just get up every morning already exhausted, go to work hard, pay their taxes, pay their dues, live an honest life, and yet are white-knuckled at the end of each month trying to pay that student loan voucher, that tuition bill, that rent, that mortgage. This one's for them. And doubling the child care tax credit, giving the first adult tax credit of the adult dependent tax credit of this nature, doubling the standard deduction. There are going to be more Americans now who pay more of their tax at a 0% rate, which is to say nothing on that income. There's so much here for Americans. And by the way, we have the single space sheet we can post somewhere for you of all the deductions and exemptions and special interest stops that are gone.
I feel like it's a lot about choice. It's giving Americans choices. You don't have to buy into Obamacare. You're not going to be penalized if you don't want to do it. If you want to send your child to a private school, but you obviously pay taxes, so you're paying for the public schools, now you can do it without paying the extra taxes because of the 529 plan. It's not just for colleges anymore. Now it's for private schools. It's giving Americans more choices, and they get to choose how they raise their kids. More food on the table. Exactly. Going down the, more people are going to be shopping at Walmart's or at Target this Christmas because they have more money in their pockets. Do you see some parallels now between the President Trump's plan and Ronald Reagan's plan? Because that was not very popular when it happened, and then it was wildly successful.
Indeed, and much of the criticism is the same. I think the ultimate judge of this tax plan will be the American people. And beginning January 1st, they know they're facing a brand new year with a brand new tax code. It won't be as overwrought. It won't be as burdensome. It won't be as complex. February, they're going to start to see these pay increases from this paycheck president. And in April, they know they're facing the IRS yet again, but with a very different relationship.
Indeed.
And we also, you'll start to see the trillions of dollars repatriated from overseas, making our businesses more competitive.
Well, yeah,
it's
going to
money
be
and those jobs here.
Right. But it's going to be up to them. It's up to these businesses to act responsibly. They're never going to get this break again, and I don't think anyone would argue with that. Real quick, the chance of losing momentum is real because you got to fund the government. And the word is a stopgap to get you to the middle of January. But the also word is Democrats want to stand their ground unless they put DACA in it. Can you tell the viewers the latest information on a would-be shutdown? What do you hear?
The latest information is this White House is committed to keeping the government open. It'd be a shame if the Democrats force a shutdown of the government in the 11th hour trying to negotiate something, I would say, that would be irresponsible because we want to make sure that we fund the military and other obligations and commitments. But this president is committed and his team is committed, and we're pretty confident about keeping the government open. But again, the Democrats sometimes think they could just blame the party in power, but people saw yesterday who is doing the action, who is producing the results, and who is not. And so with this government, the fear of a government shutdown, I think Americans can feel very secure that this team is on top of it. This president is talking to his team and folks on his team, in his party and across the aisle. But also, we want to make sure petty partisan politics doesn't get in the way of our government being funded.
It is Washington. Exit question. The odds of a shutdown are then what?
Slim to none.
Okay,
very rare. Very rare.
I hear in the background the leaf blower guy
Here he
is coming.
Here he comes.
All right.
But look, I hope other corporations and businesses will follow suit because you saw how excited many of these employees were yesterday. And I just want to say to those employees, I don't know how you voted. I don't know if you vote. I don't know if you even care about elections. But we're really happy for you because this president said he's the president of all Americans, and yesterday proved that.
And a lot of people just wound up with a nice holiday bonus. All right.
Yes,
Kellyanne, thank you very much for joining us from the White House.
Merry Christmas
to you.
All right. Kellyanne Conway. Meanwhile, 13 minutes after the hour, do you hear about this? It's a Fox News alert. 19 people mowed down overnight. It happened in Australia. Was it terror? The very latest. That'll be live next. We go to Melbourne.
Plus,
We are back with the Fox News alert. Look at this. Dozens hurt, bodies sent flying into the air when a driver deliberately plowed through a crowd of people.
It happened in one of Australia's biggest cities, Melbourne, and right now 2 people are in custody as police are ruling out terror.
Where have we seen this movie before? The Horror Show. Rob Schmidt joins us live with the breaking details. Rob.
Yeah, guys, and they're ruling out terror at this point, but of course that could change as this goes on. Right now the numbers are 19 people injured at this point, 4 of them critically. The driver is a 32-year-old Australian man of Afghan descent. So they're going to continue looking into this, of course. They say this man has a history with police. They say he has mental problems, and he has a history of drug and health issues, mental health issues as well. So as this develops, the driver did plow his white SUV into this crowd. You can see the SUV there at the top of the screen, and there he is being arrested intentionally, is what police saying, although they say this man has no links to extremism, and at this time they do not think that this was an act of terrorism. Let's listen in.
At a time of the year when so many families are celebrating the end to the year, doing their Christmas shopping, making plans for what ought to be a festive season, we have seen an horrific act, an evil act, an act of cowardice perpetrated against innocent bystanders.
And it is a cowardly act. And the driver here, the 32-year-old, slamming into a cable car stop, slamming that SUV into a cable car stop near Melbourne's busiest train station, right in the heart of the downtown of this city in southern Australia. This is an area that sees about 100,000 commuters a day on that cable car. And at that station, eyewitnesses describe bodies flying off the hood of the SUV as it sped through. Among the 19 people hurt, 15 in stable condition, 4 in critical, including a preschooler with head injuries. We are hoping that those 4 in critical do survive, although it's too early to tell at this point. Another man was arrested at the scene for videotaping the scene. He had knives in his backpack, we understand, but police do not think that he had anything to do with the attack. The investigation continues. Guys, back to you.
It does indeed. All right.
Yeah.
Rob Schmidt, live here in New York. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, straight ahead, the Hollywood elite at it again. Tom Hanks says he would not screen his new movie at the White House for the president. But did anybody even ask him?
Plus, a Christmas miracle for the 3 children. NYPD detective and single mother Maya Sotis Familia was gunned down while she sat in her patrol car back in July, you remember. Well, now 5 months later, a Christmas miracle has happened. Her 3 children are now moving into a brand new home thanks to an incredible fundraising effort that was spearheaded by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation and the generosity of you, our viewers at home. Our Fox and Friends, amazing viewers, thank you so much. Frank Siller is the chairman and CEO of that foundation. He lost his brother in 9/11, who ran through the tunnels to get to the towers, and he joins us along with Genesis, who was her mother was the NYPD officer who was gunned down. She's the oldest daughter, and you have 2 twin siblings at home. How old are they?
They're 12.
They're 12, and you've decided to take time off from college. You plan on going back to take care of the little ones at home. So tell us what happened to your mom on that day.
My mom was just, she was ripped away from us. She shouldn't have been. That is definitely like the worst day of my life. It was something that was so just terrible and evil and horrible and just devastating.
Frank, you heard her story. You've been through loss as well at 9/11, and so you've made it your life's mission to help other people that have gone through similar situations. You heard the story, and what did you do?
Well, our foundation, Tunnel to Towers Foundation, wants to be there for our first responders, families that are left behind after they're murdered just because they're wearing a uniform, in this case the blue uniform. And once we saw that she was a single mother, she had a 20-year-old daughter and the 12-year-old twins left behind, we knew that we had to step up as a foundation. We knew we could count on the generosity of Fox viewers and many others, to say the least. So to put them in their home at this time of the year.
What did you do? You bought her a house.
Yeah, we did. It's actually a co-op. This is New York. So
that's great.
It's
an apartment, which is that's how we live here. That's fabulous.
Yeah, and gutted it out, redid everything. It's so beautiful, and to have them in at this time of the year, it is a little Christmas miracle.
All right, we're looking at some video of Genesis walking into the house, into your new home. What did you think on that day, Genesis?
I was just blown away. It looks so beautiful.
It is so pretty.
It's so beautiful. It looks like a showroom. Everything is so perfect and just.
There's a
so
lot
nice.
of space. Yeah. Most of us, just for you at home, most of us live in shoe boxes. There's not a lot of room. That is beautiful. And they put furniture in there for you?
Yes. Yes.
And so you're remembering your mom. This is your first Christmas without your mom, but you told me during the break something special. Tell me what's so great about and so wonderful and special about living in this neighborhood.
This neighborhood is one where my mom always wanted to live. Riverdale was always a place where she wanted to move me and my siblings because it has a great community and it's really safe and it's just the perfect place to raise a family.
So what would she say today?
She would love it. She would be so proud of us. She would be just over the moon, and I know that she would be really happy for us to be there.
What does it mean to your siblings?
For them, I think that it means that they'll have, better access to things that they didn't have access to before. This is something that my mom always wanted for us, and I just think it's really special that they get to have that.
Yeah, I know you'd much rather have your mother than a new condo because of the way that she died. But there is some silver lining this. You've noticed all of our Fox viewers, or many of them, were sending in checks. And Frank started this organization that is blessing other people's lives. Without this organization, without our viewers, where would you be now?
In a really, really dark, bad place. Even worse. I'd be even worse off than I could ever imagine. And it's really like, thanks to you and your viewers, and thanks to Tunnel to Towers, that me and the twins are doing a lot better.
So what does Christmas mean to you this year?
This year, I'll be honest, it's a little difficult to be able to celebrate Christmas this year. Thanksgiving was also really hard, but this, for me and my siblings, is the new beginning. This is where we can set new traditions and like bring, old ones that my mom started for us. So
at least
it's going to be really special.
Frank, you made her life a little easier and this Christmas a little better for her.
Some hope and bring a little bit of peace and comfort to them. They know they have a house. Her mother just keeps on sacrificing for her, and through her sacrifice, they got this beautiful home. So we're glad at Tunnel to Towers that we're able.
All right, what's your website?
TunnelToTowers.org.
If you want to give, you know where to find Frank now on the website. And please, at home, continue to lift Genesis and her little ones up in prayer, because you're going to need it this Christmas. Know it's going to be hard. God bless you. Thank you for being here with us. Your mother paid the ultimate price, and I believe you'll see her again. Well, he helped write the tax bill and stood at President Trump's side, celebrating the historic victory. Then he was called a prop. Dan Bongino is weighing in on this outrage coming up next. Plus, a picture-perfect homecoming.
But this has been a year of extraordinary accomplishment for the Trump administration.
This president hasn't even been in office for a year. And look at all the things that he's been able to get done.
This is a big day for America. This is America's comeback.
He's got one of the best records of conservative accomplishment in his first 11 months in office of any president in American history, including, quite frankly, Ronald Reagan.
What I find fascinating about this part in our political process over the last decade or so is that usually it's Republicans praising their president and Democrats praising their president. But guys like Mark Thiessen, who were originally pretty critical of President Trump, he's called balls and strikes here. I mean, he was not saying that 9 months ago.
No longer
he's seeing what's going on.
Dan Bongino is joining us right now from down in Florida. He's a former New York City cop, a former Secret Service guy, and he hosts the Dan Bongino Show. Hey, Dan, remember, to Brian's point, remember in the beginning of this administration when so many people in the mainstream media and pundits were saying, hey, Republicans, whatever you do, don't work with this president because he's box office poison.
Right. You know, Steve, no reasonable person, and I'm caveating this with reasonable here, right, at this point can deny these two things. This has been a deeply, deeply consequential first-year presidency, and it has been an extremely conservative one. There's no denying that anymore. Red tape getting wiped out, ISIS getting their butts kicked all over the place, Americans getting a tax cut, businesses coming back to the United States even yesterday after the tax cut. It hasn't even been signed yet by the president. This has been an incredibly impactful first year, and denying it at this point, you're talking out of your back end, not your front end.
So let's talk about back end. Listen to this Huffington Post clown on Twitter. It says this about Senator Tim Scott, who was front and center. I don't know if you had a chance to meet him. We have. And he's one of the most impressive, respected people, Republican or Democrat, period. And I'm glad his profile is raised. And there's a reason why it was raised yesterday, because he plays such a prominent role in getting this passed and explaining what tax reform means to the average American person. So this guy, Andy Ostroy, tweeted this out. What a shocker. There's one black person there, and sure enough, they have him standing right next to the mic like a manipulated prop. Way to go, Tim Scott. Trump, hashtag tax scam bill.
But hold on, before you respond, Dan, that guy did take it down and he did apologize. But Senator Tim Scott's response back to him was awesome. He said, probably because I helped write the bill for the past year, have multiple provisions included, got multiple senators on board over the last week, and have worked on tax reform my entire time in Congress. But if you'd rather see my skin color, please feel free. Your response.
You know, Ainsley, I don't accept this guy's apology. Tim Scott's free to, of course. He's maybe a better man than I am. Well, he is a better man than I am, but I don't. And you know why I don't do that? A prop This is a guy who grew up with divorced parents in a relatively poor household. He's a business owner. He is a proud, accomplished, dignified man. That the left and far left liberals continue to do this and see him only for the melanin component of his skin speaks to the racism on the left, not on the right. People on the right, nobody I know in conservatism sent me a tweet, an email, or a Facebook message yesterday saying, hey, look, there's a black man on stage with Trump. They said there's a proud U.S. senator who cut your taxes. Every local 3 electrician, steel mill worker getting up tomorrow, you're going to get more money in your check next year because of men like Tim Scott. That the left sees the color of his skin speaks to the absolute intellectual vacuum these idiots live in. I don't accept this guy's apology.
Let me just read his apology, though, to you, because we all say stupid stuff, and we can all, we've all made mistakes. He did tweet this out. He said, at Senator Tim Scott, earlier I tweeted something that I now agree was unfair. Senator, I regret that tweet and apologize for it. There were many other ways I should have and could have made my point. So that was nice of him at least to apologize. I know. A lot of people agree with you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, it's a nice gesture to do it, but I'm pretty convinced it happened because of the backlash, not because the left sincerely believes that people should be judged by the quality of their character. They insist on doing this identity politics nonsense. It's garbage. I'm tired of it, and you should be too. Everyone else listening.
Yeah, Dan, because we've been talking so much about the tax cut bill yesterday, which also had the ANWR, it had the repeal of the individual mandate, kind of a triple play for the president. We haven't really touched on one of the other stories that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, and that is, what's going on at the Department of Justice. And you know all about this, or the FBI. And a couple of days ago, you had Andy McCabe, the deputy FBI director, on the hot seat, and apparently had some lapses in what he could and couldn't remember. It does sound as if they're going to be issuing some subpoenas to get some of the people who have some of the answers, like Bruce Ohr and also the general counsel James A. Baker, back up on Capitol Hill. Do you think, where do you see this going?
Well, Steve, there is one key critical question out there that still has not been answered. We cannot move on with the FBI until this question is answered. Who knew about the dossier, and was the fake news dossier, the nonsensical dossier, was it used to obtain warrants to spy on the Trump team? Nobody can answer this.
But that should be pretty easy to answer.
Steve, Andy McCabe knows about this. There are documents out there with his signature on it showing he has at least some information about it. Rod Rosenstein even said in a congressional hearing under oath he knows the answer but wasn't willing to share it. Folks, if you're an American citizen out there, don't you want to know if your government was spying on another American citizen due to political fake information supplied by Russian intelligence on a political candidate? Is this not a head scratcher? Are you not even a little bit concerned about this? You know what scares me most as a former federal agent? Big government. This should frighten the heck out of you. Well, nobody can move on till we get that answer.
We know this. It looks like Trey Gowdy and Chairman Goodlatte, who's going to be joining me on radio in about an hour, of Virginia, are going to offer subpoenas to bring them in, to make them come in and answer these questions. And hopefully it'll be on camera, not behind closed doors where you depend on
No, you know what they'll say? They'll say, we know the answer, but we're not at liberty to tell you, or I plead the fifth.
Yeah, the Inspector General is doing a report.
All right, thank you, Dan. Yeah,
do you got it. Good to see you guys.
Okay. Merry Christmas down there in Florida, Dan. All right.
Merry Christmas.
For Christmas, I'm giving everybody his podcast.
How are you?
It's free.
It's great. It's also great.
Check it out. All right. Meanwhile, it is 20 minutes before the top of the hour on this, Jillian, the first day of winter.
Yes, it is. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
And to you at home as well. Let's get you caught up on your news of the day. Starting with this, President Trump could soon see his big, beautiful wall up close and personal. The president says he's considering a trip to the southern border to check on the prototypes.
We have some wonderful prototypes that have been put up, and I may be going there very shortly to look at them in their final form.
6 companies built 8 different border wall prototypes near San Diego. The administration began physical testing to prevent scaling and breaches earlier this month. Well, we've heard of a getaway car, right? But take a look at this getaway semi-truck. You can see the man holding onto the back of the tractor trailer as it flies down the highway. Florida deputies say several people called their office to report it. The suspect hopped onto the truck to run away after allegedly assaulting a woman. His new movie, The Post, is all about the release of top-secret Pentagon papers, but actor Tom Hanks says he's not interested in screening it at the White House.
Oh, dear, I don't like hypothetical questions.
Well, I don't think you're going to like the real one either.
Do you have the papers?
Hanks telling The Hollywood Reporter he would probably decline an invitation to play his movie for the president if he was asked. The actor blaming his reluctance on things like the administration's response to the events in Charlottesville. An Army wife gets the perfect Christmas surprise. Mariah thought she was just carrying a cardboard cutout of her husband, infantry specialist Terrence Clark, at a Christmas lights tour, keeping him there in spirit while he was deployed in Afghanistan. But Terrence had something better up his sleeve. He got her. He photobombed his wife, coming home a month early. He was gone for 6 months, the only time they got to speak, one time, by the way, during his deployment. That's a cool one. That's a new way to do
How
it.
did they only talk one time in 6 months?
I don't know.
Yeah, get to the bottom of it.
You ask these questions, and I'm just focused on the emotional part of the story.
I'm asking the Pentagon. How were they only able to talk one time in 6 months?
Maybe he's in a special unit.
Yeah.
Maybe a special forces unit.
Holy cow.
All right. Thanks,
Sacrifices
Jillian.
they make. Thank you.
All right, and we should talk more. Meanwhile, 18 minutes before the top of the hour, we were just talking to Dan Bongino before. You saw that, right? Well, the economy's booming and ICE is deteriorating. He was confirming that. But many Americans probably have not heard about that. Our next guest digs into the most underreported stories of 2017. It's been quite a year for breaking news. How about it has not stopped like nothing I've ever seen before in my life? Good and bad, but a lot of stories have still managed to fly under the radar, and a lot of them good. In case you missed it, our next guest is here to break down the stories that have been swept under the rug for unintended purposes. Joining us right now with the most underreported stories of 2017 is Olympic media managing editor Katie Freites. Katie, thanks so much for joining us. First
Thanks
off,
for having me.
The number one story you believe that doesn't get enough attention is the economy. Why?
Absolutely. So, well, if you look, of course, black unemployment is at its lowest rate in 17 years, since 2000. That's amazing news. The overall unemployment rate is down. That is good for every single family in America. You look at tax reform being passed yesterday, and you have places like Comcast and Wells Fargo